Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host for today, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Ellen, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Hey, today we're going to follow up on this pollination topic that we've talked about last time. And I want to start off by reminding everybody that the pollen of one species cannot be combined with the ovule or the female component of a plant of a different species. The two have to match from a species perspective. And speaking of cross-pollination, Ellen, or cross-breeding, okay, what do you have to say about that?
Well, the one thing I want to point out is that we have heard of gardeners being very concerned about planting some of their vine crops too close because they're afraid that they're going to cross-pollinate and generate some unusual fruit other than what they were hoping for. But remember, when we talk about the fruit, we're talking about the scientific definition. If the seeds are inside the edible part of the plant, that is the edible part, and that edible part is the fruit. So the seeds are inside, and that's the fruit. So to get something strange or unusual because your plants are close together, that's really not going to happen.
Okay, fine, that's good. Okay, but there is some truth to this whole cross-pollination thing, and when we talk about cross-pollination, we talk about primarily things that might occur in that cucurbit family. And sometimes, it's not always obvious what particular plants within that grouping are within the same species. So I looked it up the other day, and I'm looking at the paper right now, and this one particular species within the cucurbit family contains, and it's called the Pepo species, P-E-P-O. You got acorn squash, you got crooknecks, you got dialectica. Okay, you got the gourds, you got the scallops, you got the zucchini, and summer squash. So all those things are within the same species, which means they can all cross-pollinate with each other. That means your zucchini can actually cross-pollinate with an acorn squash, or a summer squash can, cross-pollinate with a gourd. And again, it won't affect the fruit that you get this year, but it affects the genetic makeup of the seed, and what you get next year is going to be distorted. And the opportunity or the chance of getting something that is, good and desirable, like the literature said, it's a 1 in a million long shot. So it can happen, but if you start off with good seed, it's not going to affect, the produce that you get this particular year. You can take all of these things that I just mentioned and plant them in the same circle, if you will, and everything's going to be fine this year. But if you save the seed from those things and try to grow them next year, you're going to have something that you don't desire. So, Ellen, what else you want to add?
Well, and that's why we want to alert people that like to save seeds because you might not get what you think you're going to get. One other thing that pollination that takes place under strict controls is how hybrids are developed. So hybrids are usually developed in a greenhouse or in a lab, and it does take a long time to get the exact development that you're looking for. So hybrids are very safe to buy, and you're probably going to get the type of fruit that you want from those seeds.
Yeah.
What about GMOs, Mike?
Well, if I could just add about it, the hybrids, okay?
Okay.
So many of the plants that you can buy, or even really a lot of the seeds that you buy nowadays, are actually hybrids. And what they've taken two plants with desirable characteristics, and they've kind of, went through this manual process of, taking two desirable plants and taking male and female components and matching them up and hoping for the best results and waiting for that seed to develop. And then they plant that seed to see whether it's got the plant has the characteristics that they desired. And if so, they'll go back to that same matchup that they had before, and try to create that. So once they get that down for, a particular type of plant, they know exactly how to go forward and they can reproduce those. But it does make for a little bit more expensive seed, right? because of all the labor that's involved. Now, GMOs are genetically modified organisms. Are in this particular situation, we're talking about plants. that's developed under a very artificial process, really in a lab, where they selectively take some genetic material from one plant, pull it out, slice it out, if you will. It's amazing what they can do, and take it in and insert it in the genetic makeup of another seed, another plant. And with the idea of taking that characteristic and incorporating it into that new plant. Now, it might be something about, a drought resistance. It might be something about, resistance to a particular disease that they're looking for. But that's how that is done. And people have to kind of make their own decisions about whether or not, that particular process is going to make them concerned about, whether they consume GMO products. That's an individual thing. But before you make a decision, I think you should look up and really in some good literature and see exactly how that process takes place. Now, one quick little story about this whole process of cross pollination and things like that, and pollination in general. We had an individual, really nice fellow, and I know I'm not going to pick on him, but he came to me and he says, I just can't get any zucchini off my zucchini plant. And we went on and on and on about all these different things and what's he's doing, water and fertilizer, in the sun and everything else, and the seed and this. No. And finally, after about 10 minutes of talking, he says, well, the only thing I really do is I go out there every single morning, and all those little male flowers that are on that plant, they're just sucking the life out of that plant. So I cut them off. And that's when we had to have a little talk about the birds and the bees. About, those male plants. Us guys serve a purpose. Okay, in this world. Okay, and you can't just lop us off. Okay, and throw us away. So, that kind of helps you remember. Okay, the purpose of those. Of the male and the female flowers. So, I hope you got a chuckle out of that particular story. So, Alan, it looks like we're done for this particular topic, and we've used up all of our time. So,
Okay.
we'll hope to have you with us next time. Bye-bye.